Hello and welcome everybody to today's Intuitive Growth with Oracle Tarot Card series. I'm your host, Jessie-Sarah, and we are sharing this time with an amazing, spectacular, magical person whose laughter is just full of joy. Tani Morgan, welcome to today's interview and thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me, for this opportunity, and for that amazing intro. I appreciate it very much. And I'm excited to dive into this conversation. I love Oracle cards, and I'm really excited to talk about this today.
Beautiful. So you shared that you've been reading Oracle cards for about 3 years. What was your introduction to them? How did you get into them?
Yeah, so I'm also a yoga teacher, or was up until COVID happened. And because I have my own studio, it's a little bit small. I don't have the space. But I was actually teaching at a different studio, and there was this one deck there. And mostly I ignored it and just went in and taught every day. And then one day I just was like, I think I'm going to try it out. And I loved it. And I loved the cards, and it called to me. And so then I started to do that a little bit more regularly. And then finally I just decided, I need my own deck. And again, it was this specific deck. And I had no desire for any other decks. I just wanted this one. It was so funny, but it was just like, I felt called to it and started playing with them. And then I really feel like this deck actually taught me how to pull cards as well.
That is the best segue moving forward. The cards taught you. I want you to open up. What does that mean for you? Just before that, though, I see every time you hold it up, it says goddess on it. And we did not plan this, but
it's crazy. Yes. Yeah. These are the Goddess Guidance Oracle cards. And I was playing with them, and, I had seen other people pull cards, but hadn't really done it myself very much. And people, they would kind of shuffle them and just stop on a card. And then that was what was their card. I had been playing a lot with the energy that I could feel in my body and my hands. And so one day I was sitting on the bed and I wanted to pull cards. And I thought, what if I just spread them out and feel the cards? And so I did so, spread them all out. And as I was doing it, I was thinking about how I love the main card, which is the cover. It's the High Priestess. And as I was thinking about that, I pulled that card. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is how I need to do it from now on. And that's how I do it. And I didn't ever go to anybody to teach me how to pull cards. I really feel like Source just flowed through me and taught me in that moment. And so now, even when you join me, I do cards in my Facebook group every Friday, most Fridays, I'll say. But, if you join me, you have to wait and be patient. I put one hand on my heart, and the other hand, my left hand, I scan over all the cards and feel the card. And it has been incredibly accurate, which is really good and fun for people.
I love the fun energy, the playfulness that you bring in. Like it radiates from you. That's so powerful. You say, yes, it is. Inner child, all the way. You said you feel the cards. Could you open up just a little bit of what it feels like? Maybe someone's feeling the cards and they don't even realize it.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's a bit of a sensation in my hand, and it feels almost magnetic. So I love to, when I teach people kind of how to tune into their energy, I often will teach them to rub their hands together like this, and then just take the hands about half an inch, and you can kind of play with it. And you might not feel anything the first time. I don't think I did the first time. But if you start to do this as a regular practice, you can start to take them a little bit further and further. And it feels a bit like a magnetic pull, or something is pulling on your hands. And for me, I just now I can actually move it quite far apart, and I can still feel the energy. I can kind of feel all of the energy when I tune into it. So as I'm pulling my hand, I won't feel very much. And then all of a sudden it's almost like a little tingle, or like that magnetic pull. And then I just know that that's the card.
That's the one. Beautiful. Yeah. You said you were thinking of the card before that's the one that called to you. Do you ever see the cards prior to feeling the magnetic pull?
So I had played with them a little bit. Is that what you mean?
Like now that you're more familiar with the deck, does it sometimes give you a visual prior to feeling?
Not usually. actually, no, but I haven't also tapped into that a whole lot or tried to make it. It has been so effective just the way that I do it. I didn't even think to, work to take it any further. So I haven't noticed that myself. No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love how
But
you just honor what's right for you though.
I do, absolutely. And I think like when I first started, it was so scary, especially to do it on a video. What if I'm wrong? What if they think this is the wrong card? And, through practice, I realized that, 98% of the time, the person on the other end was like, oh my God, that's the perfect card. So that really helped me trust the universe. And then the other thing is that I've had experiences where psychics have told me something and I have thought, no, that's not going to happen, or that's not right. And maybe even said it to the person, but then down the road realize that they were actually right. So then that gives me confidence too, because I do trust source. I do trust the energy to flow through me. And so I just, even if in the moment now that if the person says, no, that's not right, I say, okay, that's fine, which actually can't remember the last time that's happened, but if it was to happen, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. And then within myself, I remind myself that they may just not see it yet. Maybe they're not open to seeing this message. Maybe they don't want to hear that message. And so immediately their ego says, no, that can't possibly be for me, right? I just recognize that they may realize down the road that it's right. And yeah, that's my perspective on it, how I kind of ground myself in my trust.
That's very wise words. What I'm hearing as you're sharing that is you're not fearing the rejection. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, no, I don't, because I recognize that maybe they don't understand the message. Maybe they haven't gotten to that point, right? Like I talked earlier, and I had an interview this morning, and I talked about this experience where I went to get my tarot reading, and I had never done that before. And he told me, like, you'll travel in June, I think, to the mountains. And I told him, no, I don't think there's any way. Like, I was thinking my kids would be in school. We went to the mountains last summer. I'm not going to go again. And even if we did, we wouldn't go until July or August. He was bang on. I ended up traveling not so much to the mountains, but to an ancient goddess ruins, which would have had like all sorts of rocks and stuff, which would have looked mountainous to him, in Spain that June. And I actually traveled to New York in that June too. And none of that I knew. So in that moment, these experiences where I've been able to say to psychics or intuitives, no, I don't think that's right. And then down the road, realize they were bang on 100%. That gives me faith too, that when a client says to me, or, a community member says to me, I don't think that's right, I'm okay with that, because maybe they're not ready to hear the message. Maybe they're not, okay. Maybe they're blocked to hearing it. Like they just don't want to hear it. And so they're automatically assuming that that's not true. So yeah.
There we go. So we have the joy flowing here today. And you shared on something. That story you just shared was beautiful. And in sharing the story where you said how there was a lot of rocks, which kind of looked like mountains. And then when you shared about New York, it made me think of how tall the buildings are. If you're looking at a vision, it could be translated as mountains. The wording of my question, I need to put together right now. So I love the reminder you're bringing forward about what the person receives isn't necessarily your responsibility. Allowing yourself to just flow, whatever flows through you is what is of value and what is important. Could you elaborate a little bit on how you trust what you see for you without trying to get, like what I just did there, let me get the words right? How do you just allow that flow and not, get stuck up on those moments?
Honestly, I read from the book a lot still. And do you know why I do that? Because I absolutely love learning. And I feel that the words that come with the deck speak to the person in a way that I may not be able to. Right? That they're going to get that was what that card was created with. And so then they may receive it differently than if I was receiving it through source, because whenever I'm receiving it, it has to go through my filter, right? And because we're human, there can be errors, like you do see happened when people aren't 100% on, right? So I just feel that I read a lot from the deck. One, because I love to learn. I love to read it myself every time. And two, because then I'm not that filter. Like I don't, I mean, I try to be as clean and as pure as possible, but we always have, little energy things or little limiting beliefs that could come up. When I'm doing, because I do intuitive too, like without cards, honestly, I just don't worry. I just say what comes out. I don't know. Maybe that's just my personality, but I don't, or if I do pause for some reason to kind of collect my thoughts, then too, I trust that that is what I was meant to say. And that was how it was supposed to be. I'm trying to think like, I really think the experiences of me having psychics tell me something that I didn't believe in that moment, that was really what solidified my trust. It was like, oh, I thought they were wrong, but they were really right. So if someone thinks I'm wrong, I'm probably still right. I'm just not going to worry about it too much. Does that make sense?
That is a really beautiful way to sum up an experience of receiving readings, because I've heard a lot of people say, I went to psychics and they weren't right. So I just had to so I figured it out for myself.
Right.
And that alternative perspective you just offered of maybe they were right and you just didn't realize it yet is interesting. And also there's so many different timelines and, we are faced with choices every single moment. So maybe they were right and there was just a different route you took.
Well, I've had for sure 2 experiences where the psychic said something and in that moment I thought no, and then exactly what they said has happened. Like then I have now seen it. They're like, yes, they were right? So that in itself has really solidified that can happen. And you're right, even if you don't have that experience, maybe a choice you made changed the direction of that timeline that you were on. Maybe you jumped timelines, like absolutely. So yeah.
Beautiful. So in your journey in collecting more decks, now that you have more than just the goddess deck, is there any rituals you have or ways that you practice in connecting with them and building a relationship with the card decks?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say not too much. I really wait to be called for cards. I wait for them to pull me in. I wait for them to invite me before I go out and buy them. Or sometimes I'm given them as gifts. And then again, I trust that they were meant to find their way to me. I did have an experience where I was ordering something on Amazon and it might have even been a specific card deck. And then they were like, add $3 and you'll get free shipping. And so I was like, oh, I'll choose another card deck, and I just kind of randomly chose it. And because I did that, or I think because of the way that I did that and I wasn't waiting to be called by a specific deck, I almost never used that deck. It was like kind of like it wasn't really meant to come into my life, right? So I do really wait for them to call to me and, speak to me and be like, you need to get that card. And when I have that sense, then I go for it. Once I bring them home or receive them, I'm just looking at my deck cards. I not really. It's just kind of like, again, I wait in the morning. I'm like, ooh, do I want to play with this? And I just start to play with it. So maybe that's unusual, but not too much. I really do trust that inner knowing within myself and follow it. And so some mornings I'll come and I'll think like, oh, I want that deck, but I'll see a different one. And then right away I'm like, no, I meant to use that one. So I try to follow my intuition, even on which deck I'm going to use in the day, which deck I'm going to pull from. And I'll go through phases. Sometimes, for a while, Rebecca Campbell's Light Your Work, or what is it? Work Your Light deck, I was using all the time. And then I got another one here called Serpent Fire Tarot. And then it like switched. And then it was just, was so drawn to this one, and so I just go with the flow. Just follow the guidance. I really think that's good advice for life in general, as much as you possibly can. That's what brings a happy life is when we're not fighting against the things that life brings us, and we're just flowing with it and accepting it to the best of our abilities at all times. So that's what I try to do in my intuitive practice too.
Everything you just shared there is beautiful, in the fact that you just showed that. You just lived that. In this interview, there's been 2 different kinds of interruptions, and you could have had the choice of becoming a stress ball and freaking out and a whole bunch of stuff, and you just went with the flow. And it's wonderful when you're having a conversation and then you see it in action. So I just want to honor that for a moment, and that freedom. And it's for people who are not familiar with what their intuition feels like and what it's like to hear a card deck calling them and stuff. I feel this is a beautiful reminder of there's no hard and fast rules. It's really just, if you feel pulled into it, that wording you were using is really powerful. And I find it interesting to hear the variety in ways that people hear their cards call to them. So like when a card deck calls to me, I literally see it like in my face, and they all have a different voice and a different tone to me. So I'll hear the tone. They're almost like little sirens singing out to me.
Oh,
and
love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And I'll go to them. So what's that relationship for you when you feel called to a deck?
Yeah, I believe I use that word pulled because that's almost what it feels like in my body. Like I talked about traveling to Spain, and I was reading the email that talked about this website, or this workshop that I ended up going to. And that's what it felt like. I felt like there was something energetically in the screen, like pulling me in. And so sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes with the card decks, it may just feel like I just can't stop thinking about it. It just keeps rumbling around in my mind. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I need to go get that. Sometimes it feels like, for this last one that I showed, I was at a silent retreat. And on the last day when we were able to speak again, we pulled cards as kind of like the closing ceremony. And as soon as I saw it, I just was like, oh, that's a powerful deck. I have to have it. You know what I mean? So I don't think there's hard rules. And I think for each individual, it's very different. Like if for some reason I thought that for a card to pull to me, that I needed to see it in my mind, none of them, that didn't happen to any of them. Right. So, you know that I'm also a coach, and I really, really work with my clients to, like, as individuals, there's no one size fits all, you know what I mean, with me, because that's part of my gifts, is I really can see each person as an individual. And that's how I feel about the cards. That's how I feel about all of us, and the different ways that we do feel called or pulled. So for me, the couple ways are that I literally feel my body like a magnetic drawing to it, right? That's one. Sometimes it's just like, I just know, oh my gosh, I need that. Or sometimes it's, I can't get it out of my mind. And it's like, it's like, come on, you're not picking up on this sign, so go get it, because otherwise I'm going to drive you crazy in your own head. Right. So I love hearing your example too, because if someone told me that would be the only way that I would know, I wouldn't have cards. So
you wouldn't have heard them call you.
Yeah, right. Because I don't so much hear it in my voice or hear it in my head or see it, which is interesting, because I do hear other intuitive guidance, but it hasn't been in terms of, not so much in terms of the cards. I haven't experienced that yet.
It's quite beautiful. Have you always been this trusting with your intuition? Was this a journey? Oh, okay. I love that response.
Oh no, I definitely, and honestly, I believe as a child, I was quite intuitive, very sensitive to the energies in the rooms. I can look back now and really see how I was really witnessing energies. But because, the era that we grew up in, or that I grew up in anyways, people weren't talking about that. They weren't teaching about that. And if they were, it was like, that's a no-no, or that's fraudulent, or that's fake. So I did not trust my intuition when I started leaning into it, started following it, started asking. I guess to a certain extent, I would hear it and I would know that that's what I heard, but then I wouldn't be able to know what that meant, or I wouldn't necessarily be able to take action on it. And it really took practice. And that's what I tell my clients now too. Like, it's going to take practice. And I recommend that one, create the mindset that you are intuitive. I do believe we are all intuitive. I really do think it is our sixth sense that we have. We may feel it in different ways, like you see it, right? I maybe feel it more than you do. We experience it in different ways, but I believe it's there for all of us to access. Just that the society that we've been in has told us that not to access that. And so I tell people, like, first of all, you are already intuitive and you just need to remember how to do it. Number two, practice and pay attention. Notice when you're feeling called. Maybe you feel like you just need to turn left and when you normally turn right. Maybe it's going to help you avoid a traffic jam, Start practicing, start following it, maybe even journal, write down, these things, and you start to see the proof that it's working. And what I would recommend is sometimes when clients start doing it and they start journaling, they also see when they were wrong, because that does happen to us. We get confused by our ego. And sometimes we think, oh, for sure. And I've noticed, think for sure this is going to happen. And then it doesn't happen. And we're like, well, how I thought that was my intuition. So what I recommend is if you do think that at one point you really think that you've been wrong, then to investigate that. Right? Or right, both of them, to really tune in. What was I feeling in that moment? What was that thinking? What was I thinking? How did I know that? Why did I think this was my intuition? And what has been true for me up until this point is that when I noticed that what I thought was my intuition was coming from a fear place where I was worried, like, I really think my husband's going to get in a car accident today, or, something like that. Those ones didn't happen. It was when there wasn't a strong emotion attached to it. It's quieter. It's just very simple. Like, this is it. And, like, do it, or whatever the message is. It's very quiet. It's very slow. And it's a safe place, a loving place. That's been my experience so far. And even if it's maybe something that is not the most positive thing, it's still just very calm. There's no worry around it. There's no stress. It's just like, just do it. Just have that hard conversation. Like, even if you know that you have to have the conversation you don't want to, like it's maybe giving you advice you don't want, it's calm. It's not giving you this huge laundry list of you need to do it because blah, 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 blah. That's how I work to differentiate my ego from my intuition.
That is a very easy applicable tool. I feel very tongue twisted today, which is fine because in your words, we're humans and we can have errors. And I just love that line that you shared, which was reminded in that information you were putting there, where, so what if you get it wrong? Investigate it. And I like how you said with the cards, it would rumble around in your mind. And even when you said it would drive me crazy, it was very playful. It wasn't like it's nagging at me and driving me crazy. It's just sitting at the back of my mind versus, oh my God, this bad thing's going to happen. This bad thing's going to happen. And it becomes overwhelming and stressful. Is such a easy indicator about, okay, am I reading into a situation that is just my imagination, or am I reading into something that is insight? So I appreciate that distinction.
I'd like to add one more thing about if you do make mistakes. If you're really new to this and you're just starting, I almost would say ignore the mistakes for the first little bit. Almost just be like, oh, made a mistake, no big deal. I'm going to learn from it and move on and really focus on where it was right, because that's going to help develop that trust a lot sooner. And then you can start kind of looking into a little bit about like, oh, okay, why would I maybe have thought this? When you have a little bit, if you're brand new, I almost say like, don't even worry, just focus on where it's right and kind of ignore where it's wrong, because the society that we've been in has shown us so many times where it's fraudulent. We already have all these kind of limiting beliefs around it that we're kind of trying to work through. So we want to just really focus on building that trust first. That's been what's worked for me anyways.
Yeah, definitely. As you're sharing, this memory keeps on popping back up. So let's see where it takes us. So the gym back home, I'm from South Africa, but I'm in Scotland right now. For those listening going, what does she mean back home? So back home, the gym I go to, there's 2 exits, but they take you completely different ways to get home. So one's like a much more direct route, and the other one is right through the town, and there's a lot more stoplights, and it kind of takes more time. The other way though, when people are traffic from work, you literally sit at the one traffic light for over an hour. And I didn't see the time, and I heard this go that way home, and I was like, I don't want to sit and stop and start at traffic lights. Like, what are you going on about? So I didn't go that way. And as I pulled out, I pulled right into the mess of the traffic. And I was like, okay, I can either get angry right now or I can play some good music.
Yeah.
So it really is a choice of, okay, you got it wrong. What are you going to enjoy about it? What good was there actually in it? And I mean, getting a chance to just sit and listen to some good music is a pretty good
Well,
highlight.
and the next time you hear "go this way," you're going to be like, well, it doesn't seem right, but okay, I'm going to go. You had that experience, right? So that's the other great thing about that's what I say, like, what were you thinking, or remember the things when you were wrong, because next time you're like, that's not going to happen again. I'm going to listen, right? I'm going to know that for whatever reason, I'm getting told to go this route. It doesn't make sense in my head, right?
Absolutely.
I love that you shared that, because I actually use that exact example when I'm teaching about intuition a lot. I'll be like, if you normally turn left, but your intuition is telling you to turn right, turn right.
It knows.
It does. That's right.
I love that. So I've got a bit of a fun question for you. And so I'm glad that you like fun. So I'm going to ask this in relation to your goddess deck, since that's the one that initiated you. If you had to put a taste to your relationship with your deck.
Chocolate, I guess.
I love how many people say that.
Oh, really? Because I wouldn't have thought, like, if I thought about it logically, I don't think that's what I would have said. But that's what popped into my head. And I almost, like, my personal preference was like, I don't want to say that. I was like, okay, just say it, Tani, because that's what the message was. So maybe that's so interesting that other people say it too. Yeah, that's great, because I've never played that game or thought about that before. That was so fun, because I wanted to say, spaghetti with tomato sauce, like that's one of my favorite comfort meals. Like that's what I wanted to say. But in that moment, it was chocolate.
Would you mind carrying on this process of trusting this intuitive communication and share with us why your body said chocolate?
Okay, let's see. Ooh, okay, so it has something to do with like activating the positive hormones or chemicals in your body.
Serotonin. Nice.
Right, like they say, like chocolate's kind of like sex, so I guess something like it's like, yeah, that's what came through. It's something about like, yeah, the chemical reaction. Who knew?
I love that. That's so much fun. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Okay, so let's see. I think I want to do another fun one with you. So your yoga, what kind of yoga do you teach?
So Akanda yoga. Have you heard of it? It's quite new.
No, I haven't.
No. Yeah. So the founder's name is Yogrishi Vishketu. He's a Himalayan yoga master. And he went to live in an ashram, I think at the age of 7, because he begged, he forced his parents. He basically told them, I'm going to run away if you don't. And so finally his mom said, okay, if you can take care of all of your things for like 2 weeks, for 14 days, like wash, because that's what you have to do there. You have to wash your own clothes and wash your own dishes, then you can go. And she didn't think that he would. And he did. Anyways, I don't know where that story came from, but apparently it was meant to be shared too.
There you go.
So he started at a very young age, and he got the, intuitive call, or I can't remember if it was that or if it was his teacher told him he had to come over to Canada and start teaching. And when he came over, they said, like, what do you teach? He's like, yoga. And they're like, no, but what kind? And he's like, no, it's yoga. Like for him, it's just yoga. Like that's what it is. But they made him come up with a name. So he came up with Akanda, which means like holistic, which is whole. And so this talks about, yogic. In our classes, we talk about yogic philosophy, we talk about relaxation, we talk about meditation, we talk about concentration, we talk about, we do the asanas, we do all of the different parts, all of the 8 limbs we're really tying into a class.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so he has the fun part.
Okay.
if you were, maybe if you'd like, you can pick a different deck or stick with the goddess pose. If you were to put the feeling of the deck when you feel it and feel into it, what pose would it be?
I got warrior pose. Before you ask the question.
1, 2, or 3?
2.
That's it. Can I be cheeky and ask you to demonstrate for us in case Is that pushing a line?
Well,
you don't have to. Guys, it's on Google. Just type in Warrior 2 and it'll come up.
I will do it, but this is going to make the interview really fun. I'm business on top and casual on the bottom. So
yes.
So I will do it. And I will also add that it was Warrior 2 triangle, which is interesting, and I haven't practiced. So I'm going to try to see if I can.
Okay. This was for the goddess pose, the goddess deck, correct?
Yes. Which is interesting that it isn't goddess, right? But Warrior 2 is like this. I don't know if you can see me.
Yes, with your socks on.
With my socks on, yeah. And my sweatpants.
You almost just went into a splits there.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
I was trying to come lower. So you could see I'd fit in the screen.
Oh, good. I was worried you were going to just like split in half.
No.
Thank you for your bravery in going up and demonstrating.
I was just saying to my husband last night, I'm like, I don't care what people think about me on the internet anymore. So there you go. There's more proof. I'll tell him about that today.
Here we go. I read something about 2020 needs its own outfit. So if you want to go out dressed in a cape, do it.
Yes. I think we need more capes, don't you?
I think so too. I said the word kimono. I believe kimonos are capes. I love walking in them and just feel them flowing behind me like I'm flying.
And you know what's so interesting? I have a bit of it is kind of a cape, and I put it on, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna go with this one instead. So it's so interesting.
It's all aligned. It's all aligned. I love that.
All aligned. Meant to be. Yeah, absolutely.
So what golden nugget of support or insight, whichever one you feel fits the wording, do you have available for those who are choosing to use divination cards, oracle, tarot, to strengthen their intuitive abilities?
What golden nugget for people who are choosing to use the cards, right? That's right.
Yeah, to specifically strengthen this intuitive muscle. Or remember, I like how you use the word, just remember it's natural for us.
Sorry, can you say that last part again?
For us to remember it's natural, intuition is natural for us.
Yeah, I think that is huge. The other thing that I want to say is that I think these are really great to start, but I hesitate to recommend people to stay there all the time, to not also practice using intuition without using tools, whether it is the cards or whether it is a pendulum or whatever, right? I think they're absolutely wonderful, and I still use them. I love to use them. They're fun. And the pendulum, but when you're driving in the car and your intuition says turn left and you know, you normally turn right, you don't have time to pull out your cards or your pendulum. So I would continue, you know, like absolutely, it's a great place and they're such great tools. I love them, right? But I would also add that you want to bring it into your life so that it's serving you all the time, and that you don't have to maybe go into a special time and place to use your cards, if that makes sense, or to use your pendulum or to use whatever, right? That you can just, you know, and you said like, how do you trust? I think that was really a big part of my practice, was like, how can I just bring this into my day all the time?
Yeah.
How can it just be me?
It really seems like you've allowed it to just be you. That integration just flows through. So thank you for sharing your magic. I'm floating on cloud 9 right now.
Now we're really in heaven.
Now we're really in heaven. Yes, definitely. That's one of the reminders the cards gave me recently. So you can live in heaven right now. So
Yes, you
this to me is for sure. There's two more questions that I have before we begin to wrap up, but there's one that's actually circling back to ask you. So it seems out of chronological order, but time isn't a thing, so let's just go with it.
Right.
You were sharing earlier about ask yourself about the errors, and then if you make a mistake, you're going to remember it the next time, like I used my example. Is there any memory that you have of you heard the intuition, you didn't act on it, and it's that one that you go, ooh, I don't want that to happen again? I remember that one.
I don't know, lady. I can think of one, maybe not so much that I don't want that to happen, but where it helped me decipher, where the emotion was in. So something had happened at my daughter's school with her best friend, and something within me said, like, her mom asked, like, oh, it was like they had to switch lockers or something. And I was like, I thought for sure, my daughter had her own locker and then had to share with her best friend. That's what happened when her best friend had been sharing with someone else that she didn't get along with. So I was convinced that the woman's mother, or that the child's mother, had called the school and asked for this to happen or something. And it turns out that that had not happened at all. Right. And so that was a really good one for me to realize that when I'm invested emotionally, because of course I would, like, my daughter was upset and, wasn't the happiest. And like, so there was emotion tied to her. And then there was kind of emotion tied to this woman because I thought she was doing something, you know what I mean? And so that was a real big one for me to be like, because I was like, my intuition is telling me that it's this. I was saying to my husband. And then I found out the truth of what happened, and she had nothing to do with it. She didn't even know about it or anything. I was like, okay, that was, and I could recognize, like, when I looked back at it, I recognized that there was that chatter that, oh, she did it and blah, 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 blah. And this is because of this and blah, 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 blah. Right. Whereas when my intuition is right, there is not that chatter. It is just very quiet. It's very still. It's just like, here, now you know this, or hear this, or, take that step. Yeah. Does that help?
That was beautiful. So, and you offer these beautiful distinctions of when you're in the moment, and you're like, wait, am I hearing the intuition? And I'm not hearing the intuition. You express it so beautifully with, if there's a lot of chatter around it, there's an emotion attached. What's going on? And I love that feeling of, even if an intuition comes through and you might not necessarily act on it in, the way that right or kind of thing, or your emotion does get a little bit involved. I love that feeling that it never goes, I told you so. It never has that energy to it. It's just kind of like, I've been here all along.
Totally. Or I'll tell you one more time.
Yes.
I'll keep telling you.
Absolutely. I'll tell you as many times as you need, even if it's 110.
And I'll start telling you different ways if you need me to, too.
Yes. Absolutely. I feel like that's a big thing that cards do for me, is I love when I'm receiving something, I'm like, okay, I'm not getting this message. Just say it to me in the card deck. And then comes across with this clarity that you can't miss.
It is so good for that. I 100% I agree. And that's a great way to use cards, I think, is especially if you are trying to develop other intuitive, methods, and then you're not sure, go to the cards for confirmation, right?
Beautiful. So final two questions.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see your response to this one, because you already started touching in it when you started saying where this is just your way of being. Yeah. What about having this natural ability to interact and receive guidance through cards as a way of being for you makes your heart smile?
I think, okay, this is going to be a little vulnerable, but I am a Leo I have a Leo sun, and I have a great need to be special. And I've never felt that I was special. I grew up not, kind of being okay at most things, but not really excelling at anything. And I never felt special. And I guess this is my gift. This is something that just naturally has come. I mean, I did work at it. You know what I mean? It's not like, I'm not one of those people that was like, oh, ever since I was a child, I could do this. But now, like when I was starting to develop it, someone said to me, it sounds like you have this way of, you already are it. It just happens with you in your daytime. You don't have to, go into a prayer or meditation. So there's something that's like, okay, it's my little special, unique gift of mine. Allows me to finally feel special, even though like mentally, I know that all of us individually, we're all special because of how we are so individual and how we all bring unique things. It's like, that's my little thing, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that soft spot inside of you, because we might know logically that we're all unique and we're all special, but it's very different to being able to feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's just such a wow. So our final question for today is the show notes. In the notes, your community pages there and other social media links are available. What will people find when they come to your community? You've touched on a variety of things you do. What will they find when they come and connect?
Okay, so I am also very multi-passionate. I am a manifesting generator, if anybody is a human design follower. Yeah. So I have lots of interests, but I really do focus on empowering women to tap into their purpose, into their unique gifts, so that they can share that with the world, either in their lives, or I love working with entrepreneurs who want to align their unique gifts and their life mission, their soul mission, with a soul-aligned business to really make impact in the world. I love working with women who want to make the world a better place. So we talk about manifesting, we talk about intuition, we talk about emotional empowerment, which is really like releasing the energetic blocks, moving past limiting beliefs. And a lot of that is a bit of like healing some of the trauma and the pain from the past as well. So I hope I kind of covered that all, but that's mostly what we talk about. And let me say one more thing. Being authentic. That's something else that I really like, showing up authentically, and as your real self, as your true self, and then loving and accepting that person. That's something else that's really important to me.
That just opened up another final question, if I may.
Of course. This is so much fun. I didn't really want it to be over.
Agreed.
I was like, would it be rude if she says final question and I go?
If it was authentic, then no.
I held it in, but that's what I wanted to do.
Let's point out the authenticity found its way out.
That's right. Totally did. And that's me. Like, I can't hide much for long. I really do wear my, heart on my sleeve for my emotions. I am. Yeah.
And Leos aren't ones to hide.
Yeah, I know. Although I did for a while, the societal conditioning can be really strong. And I have Virgo moon. Virgo moon makes me a little like, I don't know if I'm a little critical, a little worthy, a little, lack of worthiness, I think.
Okay, so you just did it again. You just set up this next question perfectly. This feeling now, as you've tapped into this feeling of specialness, of your own unique specialness, what has that revealed to you about yourself, your own authenticity that you didn't know prior?
That's a tough one, my friend. What has feeling special taught me about my own authenticity?
Yeah, or allowed you to see about your own uniqueness?
I don't know if it's like that it allowed me to see, because I was on a bit of a journey, like where I was looking for these kind of things and looking for my gifts and trying to find that. But what it has brought is, it has definitely brought self-acceptance, self-love, self-approval. And with that comes confidence, comes this contentedness. resiliency. Like life is good. Like when I joked about like heaven on life, you know, like life is pretty good for me now. Yes, we're human. We're going to have like ups and downs. My downs are getting smaller and smaller and shorter with larger ups in between. And I know a lot of this is, you know, like maybe feeling special, but it's also through this emotional empowerment work that I am doing, where authentically I feel my emotions in the moment if I can. Mind you, like there's moments where, you know, maybe some listeners, if you're at the office, that's probably not the time. But if that was the case, if I was somewhere where I couldn't, I would make sure to come home afterwards and then take some time and make some space for me to feel the emotions that want to come up. And that has been really transformative for me. And really, yeah, that along with kind of accepting some of the shadow parts and being honest about, I didn't feel worthy for a long time, or I didn't feel special, and just really accepting like that's who I am, has brought this beautiful space of, yeah, it's kind of just contentedness, happy, peace. It's a good place to be. It's hard to explain, but it's a good place to be.
I think you did a wonderful job at sharing that, and your whole energy just, it was very high priestess energy as you were sharing that.
That's my card. That's my card. I'll just share this real quick. When I was first starting my business, I was like, what should I call myself? What should I call myself? And I kept pulling that card, and I cannot call myself a spiritual teacher. Cannot do that. Who am I? No, what have I done? I'm not a monk sitting in a cave. And to be fair, I still don't call myself a spiritual teacher, but within, I know that that's what I am. I know that I'm here to share my wisdom. I know that I'm here to teach, you know, about intuition, about those things. And honestly, this goddess deck has been telling me that from the get-go. So if I have actually one little golden nugget, is trust those cards as best you can. Trust them, because they are right, even when you don't want them to be, or you think it's impossible for them to be. They're right.
That was the best way to conclude this interview right now. It doesn't even feel like an interview. It just feels like an overflow of joy and curiosity being present. Thank you for sharing your heart, sharing your wisdom, and just all of the gems. I feel like every time you were speaking, I was like, there's another gem, and there's another gem, and there's another one. So everyone out there, go check out Tani's communities, her pages, all of her places. If you're looking for your downs to be closer to contentment and go up a lot quicker, you know the lady to connect with.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, I can.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It has absolutely been a joy and a pleasure and so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so blessed by it. So thank you, Tani. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Until next time. Mwah.